Law. Kia ora, Alfred, nice to see you, and welcome, and over to you really for your time before the committee this morning.
Kia ora, and thank you, Madam Chair Jenny. It's good to see you again, and also to just acknowledging you, Nicole, as well, as a new parliamentarian. Look, thank you for the time, and I know that we only have a short window. When I thought about making a submission, I didn't want to be one of those MPs that, you know, once you've left, you sort of want to leave and allow Parliament to be what it is. But, you know, I thought to myself, well, actually, prior to coming into Parliament and being there for 9 years, I had made submissions, and so this is nothing new. For me, it's continuing on. And so when I was looking at reflecting what would I contribute to this debate, so I do oppose the bill as it is currently written. And I suppose my contribution that I want to make, I suppose, is to parliamentary process. And I noted, Nicole, in your speech, your first reading speech in this bill, you talked about that. You talked about giving it due consideration. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to acknowledge that, you know, that's 106,000, over 106,000 submissions that have been made, which is the largest of any submission process in over 160 years of New Zealand Parliament. So to me, that's a significant acknowledgement. In fact, euthanasia was 38,000. That was the largest. So my submission really talked about parliamentary process. And we know that the fact is that good process means good practice. And so I want to thank the committee. It's taken, it's extended the time. I think that's important. But I believe that there needs to be more time that's given. If I think about the 38,000 submissions that came through and over the 1,800 oral submissions for the euthanasia bill, the end of life choice bill, I mean, the hearings were held over 18 months. It was significant. So I'd like to say to the committee, if this is almost, it's more than double the submissions, I would say that the public deserve to have a process. And when we say public, it's not just those in communities, because I've been watching the submissions. There are practitioners of law, of health, and even Anna herself, the recent submitter, was talking about the importance of due process. And I note that also too in the submissions, the reports from the regulatory impact statements from Ministry. So like you would have done, I sort of went back in and I've done my due diligence. I've read through the reports from the Ministry of Justice and the Crown Law advice to the Attorney General. I've read the regulatory impact statement. I suppose what stood out for me was, again, that the notice inside, for instance, the regulatory impact statement, which states the panel notes that the RIS has been prepared in a limited time frame with limited data, and those constraints have impacted the analysis of what's possible and the options that are there. If we look at Crown Law, more extensive consultation process may be resulted in a better informed understanding of the nature and scale of the problem. So the first point I want to make is process is so important. I would say to the committee, if we've got the volume of submissions, the range and the scope of advice that's being given, and not just to those who are the proposers of law, which is where you are now, but the practitioners of law as well, then they're submitting to say to us and to say to you, we need to take the appropriate time. I've also read through the Counting Ourselves report, quite an extensive report. It's anonymous in its, indications. So the second point around process and the scope of engaging in our communities, even the Counting Ourselves report acknowledges that there was a lack of engagement in other vulnerable communities, such as Māori, such as Pacific, and other ethnic communities. So again, if we're going to do due diligence, again, engage in the fuller parts of our community. And you may have said that, yes, we've had some young people that have spoken, but where are the voices of those most vulnerable communities speaking out? How are they contributing to this? And again, I believe that the lack of opportunity to do that will seriously impinge upon this bill and, you know, has the opportunity to be able to shape that. Look, just a couple more points there. Crown Law advice was really clear. Though they presented 3 ways of substantially mitigating the chilling effect, in fact, they wrote it inside there. They said that although there is a potential chilling effect on legitimate expressions of opinion with families and whānau about sexuality and gender, it is substantially mitigated in 3 important ways. So we take those ways. I know that you, Madam Chair, have spoken about that when submitters have talked about that. But Crown Law advice and also to other QCs, practitioners of law, have submitted there is still a potential pathway. The Minister himself was unclear in his first interview, and you would have seen that, even he said that we get to the point where having the conversation is fine, and members of the committee have talked about that. But when it gets to the point when it comes to a decision to be made, you've now created through this law the pathway where actually the right of a child as young as 12 can actually supersede the right of a parent who cares for the child, can be superseded by the fact of giving a pathway for their decision and their choice. And even potentially, and even if it may not be affected, as you have often said to people, that that's not the case, other practitioners of law said the pathway is still present, is still possible under certain conditions. And I have to say, Madam Chair, that, and to Nicole, that's creating great concern in our community as well. I've only got a minute or so left in my submission. I just want to summarise in what I'm putting here. I just want to recommend to the committee, if we consider giving due process, the reasons why it was the reasons why it's now just been extended up to 6 months, which is the standard, is the volume of submissions. And I've been listening to the range and the scope of submissions we've made through what people are saying in the communities and throughout the country. Let's take our time. Let's do this right. People are saying that we understand, the care for those who have been victims of coercion and manipulation that's out there. But we don't know the scope. We don't know the range. What we don't want to do is to make bad law. And as we've often said when I've been in there, you don't want to take a sledgehammer as a way of law that could be used in a way to actually break things down that are legitimate. Parents who have the right to be able to care for their kids, to give guidance and responsibility. We don't want to surrogate that out in other ways. We want also people to be free to have their realms of worship and wherever they may be, and also the freedom to choose, where actually someone may want to consent to some support and help. And at the moment, those I think are some of the greatest concerns. Can I plead to the committee, give this due diligence, give it time, and in order to do that, then I believe that you can come up with something that addresses the areas of concern while at the same time too removing areas that could potentially create more harm in our community as well. So I just end my submission. That's all. I know I'm over my time, but thank you again for giving me this opportunity, and I wish you guys well.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you for taking the time out to submit and provide your review. So I appreciate it very much.